Hello, 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 everyone. Welcome to my live. Give you a couple minutes here to pop on. While we're getting started, I want to ask you a question. So, how long have you been doing this work? So, if you're in the live already, welcome and pop in the chat. How long have you been doing something? And not just working, not just surviving, but this work, searching and reading, doing the therapy and the podcasts and the late nights when you can't sleep because the grief or the anger or the confusion is louder than everything else. So, how long have you been struggling in this family dynamic? A year? 5 years? A decade? 2 decades? 30, 40 years? How many years? How many years have you been struggling and reading and doing the therapy and the podcasts? So, I was talking to somebody yesterday, and she's in her 70s and has been in therapy for several decades. And she's not the only one. I've talked to lots of people who've been struggling with trying to feel better and trying to get that crazy voice in your head to stop making you feel bad. And I was talking to some other people who've gone no contact, 4 years. Okay, it's a little slow. The little chat's a little slow, and who've gone no contact and still struggling, right? And still feeling bad, even though you've gone no contact. So the next question I have is what's actually changed? Because that's the real question after doing all this work, not what you've learned or what you understand now that you didn't understand it before, but really what has fundamentally changed in your body and in your life. Because I know a lot of people who understand the patterns completely. I know because we have a lot of followers and millions of views, and people say a lot of things, a lot of awareness around this family dynamic. You could probably cite it better than the mental health providers working with your families. And a lot of us, right? We can describe our childhood wounds with clinical precision. And maybe you've read all the books and you've done years of therapy, and there's somebody still living inside of you, and it's the same cycle that you've been trying to escape. And I know this because I've been there myself. And today I want to talk to you about, or talk with you about, three things that don't get said honestly enough in this space. And the first is what it actually takes to break a cycle. So not just manage the cycle, and not just cope with it, but actually break it. And then why most people in trauma work use financial conversations to stay stuck, like timing or money. I don't have enough money. So staying stuck in a cycle that doesn't really get you the support that you need. And then I want to talk about plant medicine. So, for those of you who've been following me for a while, you know I've been doing deeper healing work with psilocybin, with plant medicine, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about that today. So, hold on to your hats, stick with me here. This is going to be a lot of really great information, and I'm going to talk about plant medicine and the readiness for plant medicine and what it actually does and doesn't do. And also about my own experience that I did not see coming and I absolutely didn't plan for with regards to medicine. But before any of that, I want to tell you a little bit about my story. And I think it might be closer to yours than you might even expect. And for those of you who don't know my whole story or bits of my story, maybe I was 5 when my parents divorced. And in the middle of the night, my mom packed up me, my brother and sister, and we left my dad and my home, or the home that I was growing up in. And I didn't understand what happened because children at that age have no idea what's going on. They don't have the cognitive framework to really understand estrangement or alienation or adult dysfunction. So What they have is a felt sense, a body level knowing that someone who was supposed to be in their life is gone. And then the story gets built around the absence. And so the explanations, the silence, the things that are said, and the things that aren't said, and the child's nervous system builds an identity around all of it. So by the time I was 12, contact with my dad was completely gone. I cut him off. And by that time, I thought I knew what was right for me. And then by the time I was 18, I had left my home with my mom and I went to see my dad. And because neither one of us really understood what happened, we were both dysregulated. And so I moved across country alone at 18, carrying anything that happened in my family system that I didn't yet have words for. So for those of you who've left when you were teenagers, I know a lot of you because I see your comments in a lot of my videos that I post about your stories and how you left as a teenager as well. And at 18, I tried to reunite with my dad, like I said, but it wasn't great, right? It wasn't a Hallmark moment. It was two people who had missed each other and yet still didn't really understand what was going on. We were both completely dysregulated. We had both been through a traumatic event or events, and we had a shared experience, but no shared language for what had happened between us. And so we had absolutely no idea how to be in each other's presence, in each other's lives. And to be completely frank, when I was 18 years old, I was like a heat seeking missile. I was actually trying to find a way to ease the guilt and shame and to justify why I cut my dad out at 12. And so I was searching for a place to land. But what was really brewing below the surface was an unconscious story, guilt and shame. And we were both a mess. And the truth of all of it is that we both wanted connection, but neither one of us had the tools to create it. And so, of course, it didn't hold, and we became estranged again. I went on to build my life. I built a career in the mortgage industry, successfully a top producer in the mortgage industry for 16 years. I retired in my mid 30s. I was married, had a couple of kids, and for a period of time, I had a relationship with my mom. And it was imperfect and complicated. And then when I got divorced, my mom tried to alienate me from my own children. And I didn't really understand what was going on at the time because they were young. And I had lived with the estrangement from my dad as a child and through most of my 20s. I moved across country alone at 18. And I now was watching my mom try to do the same thing to my children that had been done to me. And the cycle was not something I had read about. The cycle was just my life. And so after the divorce and as the dust started to settle, I started doing the deeper work of understanding what had happened. And I discovered a phrase called parental alienation and what that was and what it does to kids and what it does to our nervous systems and what it does to our identity and what it does to the way that we form attachments and understand our own worth. And in that discovery, I rediscovered my bond with my dad. And it's so interesting because I rebonded with my dad, but not the dad that I wanted when I was 5, and not the reunion that I tried to force when I was 18 because neither of us knew what we were doing or what had happened. And not another, reunification that was built on a facade. It was a reunification with another adult who had been wounded by the same system, who had been lost like I was. And we did the work together and with language and framework and support we hadn't had before. And it wasn't because it was available to us by other practitioners. It was because we built it together. We were discovering what had happened to us back in 20 years ago when there really wasn't a lot of language and the internet wasn't like it is today. So with language and support that we had been creating, we started to heal. And again, this was in 2006, and I started doing this work publicly. I started teaching it, building it into programs, helping families navigate what I had lived. And I was good at it. I knew it in a way that went beyond expertise because I had been inside it in the family dynamic. And something else started happening alongside the work, something that I wasn't actually prepared for. And what started happening was the attacks, the experts who never accepted me, who dismissed what I was doing, who made it clear, sometimes directly and sometimes through channels I would hear about later, that I wasn't credentialed enough, that I wasn't academic enough, and wasn't the right kind of voice for this conversation. And people in the field who laughed at my work and who ridiculed my methods, who positioned themselves as the authorities and treated me as an outsider who needed to be reminded of her place in this space. And then the deeper cut line, the people I thought were my friends, people I had let get close, people I had trusted, people I had opened up to and I had collaborated with, people I had trained and believed in, people turned on me. These people made the most heinous, gosh, can't speak, false allegations. And they took from me, and what they knew about me, they twisted and distorted and tried to make me the bad guy so that they could be the experts, the one who created solutions. And that particular kind of betrayal, the one that comes from the inside, from people that you chose, that is its own wound, and it's different from the critics and the skeptics, the people, the naysayers that are against what you do. Those you can brace yourself for, but the people you trust, right? The people in your inner world, yeah, that's a totally different kind of wound. And why am I sharing all this with you? Well, here is what I want to say about all of that, because I know some of you know exactly what I'm talking about. You've been there too, and maybe you're there right now. The hardest part was not the attacks themselves. The hardest part was what they confirmed, what they activated in me, deep, old, cellular wounds, beliefs, the belief that I was too much, that I wasn't enough, that the people who should stand beside me would eventually find a reason to leave or turn on me. The 5-year-old girl who left her home in the middle of the night and her dad in the beginning of the split of a relationship, and at 18, who moved across the country alone, she didn't disappear when I built a career in the mortgage industry, when I started building a career here and methodologies and reputation. She didn't go anywhere. She was just quieter out here, but louder in here. And every attack and every betrayal and every expert who laughed, they found her. And here is the thing that is the hardest thing to say is I still hear it today. Clients come to me. I was working with a client last week, and people who've worked with other people in the field who've been in these rooms, and they tell me what is still being said about me, about my work, and about my credibility. The narrative that was built about me did not stay in those rooms, it traveled. And for a long time, I also carried it, not loudly, not in a way that most people could see, but underneath everything, underneath the programs, the podcast, the clients I was genuinely helping, there was a story that was running. And you might hear this story as well. You might hear this also in your own thoughts. Who do you think you are? You're not accepted here. The real experts don't respect you. Sooner or later, people close to you will abandon you or turn on you. And the truth is, this is not an external narrative, it's the cycle. It's the belief. It's the same cycle that started when I was 5 and someone really important in my life was cut out. And just in these adult ways, I was wearing a new face. And I did not see it clearly and not fully until 2020. So, what happened in 2020? Well, COVID hit and the world stopped. And when the world stopped, things that you've been outrunning catch up with you. And for me, what caught up was everything that I just described: the attacks, the betrayals, the narrative, the old wound underneath all of it, the exhaustion of carrying it while continuing to show up as a person who has the answers for everyone else. So, what happened? Well, I'm going to tell you. I wasn't looking for a solution. I didn't even realize that I had a problem. And nothing that I'm about ready to share with you was even on my radar. I was invited to a retreat with my team, a group of people who worked alongside me in this work. And I agreed to go there in a support capacity. That was the plan. And so again, this wasn't on my radar. I wasn't in a community where plant medicine was being discussed. I was not seeking a spiritual experience or a breakthrough or any new modality. I was 15 years in this industry, successfully helping adult children and parents heal. Court ordered reunification. My program gets court ordered all over the world. So helping families heal. And something in the container of this retreat, something in the preparation, in the quality of what was being held, spoke to a part of me that I had not been able to reach. And it was a part of me that was exhausted, that had been fighting, and not just for families, but for my own legitimacy, my own belonging, my own right to be taken seriously. And for years, 15 years in this space. And something in me said it was time. So I said yes. And not from desperation or even trying to seek relief. It was from something quieter, a knowing. And what medicine found was not what I expected at all. It was not a vision of my dad or a cathartic release of my childhood grief. It was a quiet moment that I saw my 5-year-old self. She showed up. Not only did she show up, I could feel her, I could see her, and I could hear her. And she said to me, "What has taken you so long?" And it's so interesting because those of you who've done work with me know that I talk about the lower self and the part of our consciousness that gets programmed in the first 5 years of life and integrating this part of our consciousness and how to do that. But in that moment, there was a felt sense of her, a connection to her, a part of her that I had suppressed, a part of me. And it was a confirmation with the part of me that I had abandoned myself. Oof, I'll try and get through this without crying because it's the part of this work that's so powerful and so meaningful and creates the most incredible change in your life. And it was a confirmation. And it was the part that had poured 15 years of expertise and love and capacity into serving families while quietly beneath all of it, not fully believing I deserve the same quality of presence I was giving everyone else. And for the adult kids here in the room, I know you feel this when you twist yourself into a pretzel for a parent's love and you don't get it. And for the parents who twist yourself into a pretzel for your child's love and you're not getting it, you have no contact. It's the same wound. It's the opposite side of the same wound. The pain is the same. And the part that really kept working harder every time someone attacked me, and it wasn't from confidence, it was from the old wound trying to prove itself worthy. The part that let people close because I was still somewhere deep in me trying to resolve the original abandonment. And yeah, and I was devastated again and again. And when they left or tu turned on me or made false allegations, I lived that wound over and over again because that is what the pattern expects. That is what it recreates. And what medicine showed me, all of that was a pattern of behavior that was created in my first 5 years of life. And it wasn't there to punish me, it was there to free me. And that experience, that unexpected, unplanned, completely transformative experience is why I built the retreat I'm going to share with you a little bit later. And not just that it's a retreat, but the way that I built it. And it's not something I researched and designed from the outside. It's something that I lived and something I've been doing and creating for 20 years. And I'm telling you all of this because it's important to understand something before I teach you anything. And I'm not here as someone who figured this out early and has been living in clarity ever since. I'm here as someone who has been on every side of this equation. I've been the abandoned child, the estranged adult, the mother whose children were nearly weaponized and taken from me, the professional who was attacked and betrayed by people that I trusted. I'm a woman who finally, at a retreat that I didn't plan to participate in, found the deepest layer of my own wound. And I was the wound before I was the medicine. And 15 years in this space before 2020 and 50 years of living this in the family dynamic was the pre work for the deeper work. And I would have never guessed that when COVID hit. And COVID was a blessing in disguise. It gave me an opportunity to slow down and look at the deeper wound. And I've done a lot of medicine in different containers. And something I've discovered was that there's a lot of containers that can't hold and transform this family wound. There are a lot of facilitators still live in the unhealed wound. And so it is in the container. And everything I'm going to talk to you about now and everything that I facilitate in the retreat is built from the living space. And I want to talk about what breaking the cycle actually means, because I think the phrase gets used in a way that dilutes it. And a lot of people say they're breaking generational cycles, but very few actually are. So, a couple of myths. A lot of people think going no contact is breaking a cycle, but that is not breaking the cycle. That is the first step for protection. Fighting for your kids in court is not breaking the cycle. Understanding your pattern, that is not breaking the cycle. Healing requires something deeper than reaction, deeper than opposition, and deeper than even insight. And the single most important thing I can tell you about cycles is if the pattern still lives inside of you, the cycle is not broken. It's just waiting for the next host. You might want to write that down. If the pattern still lives inside of you, the cycle is not broken. It's just waiting for the next host. Let me take a sip of my water. So, I want to show you what I mean for both parents and children, because I know some of you are adult kids from difficult narcissistic parents. Some of you are alienated parents. Some are both, like me. You're a parent and a child of this family dynamic. And the cycle looks different for each of you, but the mechanism is the same. So if you were raised in a home with a narcissistic, emotionally immature, or deeply wounded parent, then you were shaped. You're not broken, you were shaped. You were shaped by the pathology in the family. And the shaping happened through survival. So you developed strategies to navigate a system that was not safe. And those strategies were brilliant. Okay. They kept you alive inside something that was genuinely hard. And survival strategies, these don't really retire when the danger passes. They keep running unconsciously in your nervous system. And for most people, the strategies fall into two categories. The first is collapse. So you learn to appease, you shrink back, to silence yourself, to over explain, or to make your needs smaller so the relationship could survive. And the second is the counter control. You drew a hard line in the sand. You defined yourself almost entirely in opposition of what you came from, and that opposition became your identity. Both of those can look like healing, and both of them can feel like progress, and both of them are still the wound operating, just in a more sophisticated costume. And the real question I want you to sit with is, if your mom disappeared tomorrow, so let's say you're an adult kid here, and your mom disappeared tomorrow, completely, permanently gone, would the voice inside you disappear with her? For most of you, the answer is no. And and I know because we talk to you every day. And the good news is it's not failure, it's information. And distance is not healing or integration. And insight is not embodiment, and anger is not autonomy. Real freedom is when her presence or absence no longer determines the quality of your inner life. So if you're a parent and it's your co parent and the noise is still in your head, okay, this is the same generational trauma. You didn't get in this situation by accident. You were conditioned in your own childhood, and this is how you got to where you are today. And for the parents, your nervous system has been in survival mode, possibly for years. Maybe you've been through court and attorneys, silence from your child, and this particular cruelty of missing someone who is alive and reachable in theory and completely gone in reality. And of course, that keeps you dysregulated. And I ask a lot of parents this. And once I asked myself this as well, who are you when you're not fighting? And what I see happen with parents over time is it's not this criticism or even compassion. It's the identity slowly fuses with the battle. So your self becomes organized entirely around injustice, the loss, and the war. And so when that happens, you lose access to the regulated, grounded version of yourself that your child actually needs when they come back. So the question that really matters is, if your child walked back through your door tomorrow, are you regulated enough to hold them without needing them to validate you? Because love without regulation is not experienced as love by your child. It's experienced as pressure. And when a child who has been weaponized will retreat from pressure before they retreat from almost anything else. So the path back to your child runs directly through you. So, what does it actually take? There are four non negotiable elements for recovering from this family dynamic and unhooking from the pathology, whatever role you're in. Okay. Child, parent and child. Partial work produces partial results. So, the first is nervous system regulation. Your nervous system is not a metaphor, it is a biological infrastructure through which every single relationship you have is filtered. Okay, every relationship. When your nervous system is dysregulated, when you are running on cortisol or survival, okay, you cannot access the part of your brain responsible for nuance, for repair, for empathy, and genuine choice. Okay, it's on holiday. And you can't transmit safety to a child, to your partner, to yourself if your own system doesn't know what safety feels like. So it's not about willpower, it's physiology, and it can be changed, but it requires specific somatic body level nervous system cellular memory work, not understanding, okay? Traditional therapy does not regulate nervous system, right? Second is identity reconstruction. Most people here have a vision of themselves that was built entirely around the wound, around survival, around the role that you played in your original family system. And you cannot outbehave an identity that you haven't changed. Okay, you just can't. And I'll tell you from my own personal experience, you can know this completely. You can teach it like I've been teaching it. You can still live inside an identity organized around survival without fully seeing it. And you might think that's a character flaw, but this is how deep it actually goes. And this is so like, this was like shocking for me because for 15 years, I was a leading expert, right, in alienation and reunification and solving this problem. And yet I was still abandoning myself. The third is shadow integration. This is the one people resist the most, which makes sense because the word shadow just even seems scary. And when you have been genuinely harmed, and most of you have, or probably all of you, if you're in my community, the last thing you want to hear is that you have a shadow and that there are patterns inside of you contributing to the cycle. But every system has roles, every single one. And if you grow up in a wounded system, you internalize that system. You internalize the rules, the dynamics, the way of being, even as you were trying to escape it. So seeing your part without self attack clearly is not the same as accepting blame for what was done to you. Okay. Blame has an inverse relationship with responsibility and accountability. When you take responsibility for your life, then you can change it. If you stay in blame, then everything is out here. And it is the only way to stop unconsciously recreating it. And if we think of the shadow as the parts that we sent into exile, it helps us reconcile and integrate better. And the fourth structure is support. Healing without a container dissolves under pressure. You can have the insight on Tuesday and lose it entirely by Thursday when you get triggered by a text or by a court date or by a call from your parent or your co parent, right? So, structure is what holds the transformation in place while your nervous system learns a new baseline. Without it, you're just trying to rebuild a house in the middle of a storm with no walls around you. Okay. So I want to talk about something that most people in this space don't say directly enough. And the two most common reasons that people give for not doing the work are money and timing. I can't afford it right now. This is not the right time. And, or I'm going to wait around for my kid to come around someday, or I'm going to wait for my parent to apologize or figure it out. It's theirs to do. Okay. So whichever side of the coin you're on. And sometimes genuinely they're real financial issues. There's a reality of financial constraints. But I've been working in this space for 20 years with families in trauma. And I've learned to listen for something underneath the words because very often, especially in people who grew up in systems where their needs were too much, those words are not financial assessment. They are a nervous system imprint speaking in a language of practicality. So if you were raised by a parent who made you feel that your needs were dramatic or inconvenient or selfish, your nervous system learned that choosing yourself has a cost and that it's safer, smarter, more responsible to put everyone and everything else first. And that pattern does not announce itself as a wound, it announces itself as wisdom. And it says, be responsible, wait until the timing is better. Don't worry, they'll come around someday, maybe next year. And next year comes, and the year after that. And I worked with a woman recently who had been circling her healing for several decades She read every book, every resource exhausted. Every time something required a real commitment, real money, real time, real skin in the game, guilt flooded her system. She would say, "It's not the right time." And what she was really saying was, "I don't yet believe I'm worth choosing." And again, that's not a financial issue. That's the original wound dressed up as responsibility. And for the parents here, I worked with a dad recently who had spent over $100,000 in family court. No limit to what he would spend to protect his child, he shared with me, and he meant that completely. But when it came to investing in regulating his own nervous system and preparing himself internally for reunification, he was fighting for externally, he disappeared because the fight felt like doing something, healing felt vulnerable and selfish. When I asked him, if nothing changes in you over the next 12 months, what does that cost your relationship when your child comes back? He didn't have an answer, but it broke his heart open. And I hope you're realizing what he realized is that investing everything in the external war while showing up in the internal one completely unprepared is costing you. And the cost of waiting is not neutral. In another year, you have hypervigilance, relationship patterns producing the same results, an identity organized around the wound rather than around who you are becoming. And the timing will never be perfect. The wound doesn't wait for a convenient season. The only question is whether you are running the pattern or is the pattern running you. And you think you can outsmart it because I certainly thought I could outsmart it. And I certainly didn't realize in 2020 that there was something deeper. And I want to talk to you a little bit about medicine and I want to share some additional framework with you. When I went to do medicine and I just actually I didn't go to do medicine. I'll just be completely honest with you. This isn't for everyone. And at the time, I didn't even think it was for me. And I'm not saying this as a disclaimer. I'm saying it because it's actually true. Because one of the things I find really annoying and irresponsible in the medicine space is the implication that everyone's ready for medicine. Everyone should not do medicine. This is the answer for some people, not for everyone. And medicine is an amplification and it doesn't remove what is unresolved. It finds it, it brings it to the surface with a clarity and an intensity that bypasses the defenses that you've built and shows you what is actually there, which means that what you bring into ceremony is what gets amplified. And a dysregulated nervous system in ceremony does not become regulated, it becomes more intensely dysregulated. And grief that has not been metabolized, it just doesn't go away. It expands for alchemization. And I didn't plan to do medicine, like I said, I was not seeking it. I went to the retreat to support my team, and something in the container spoke to a part of me that recognized it was time. So I said yes. And again, it wasn't from desperation, it was a quiet knowing. And I found my self abandonment and my self rejection and the person who had spent 15 years trying to prove herself, helping families heal, striving, building, serving, while quietly underneath all of it, not fully believing I deserved what I was giving everyone else. And the 5-year-old Dorcy, the little me, who built an entire career and an industry really of solution. Yeah. So the medicine showed me that very quickly. And I want to talk about readiness because readiness is not certainty. I wasn't certain. Readiness is not about the absence of fear. Everyone who's done meaningful ceremony work has been afraid. Readiness is not having done enough therapy or achieved enough insight. Readiness is being willing to be found by what you have been avoiding and being able to say, honestly, I'm not coming here to feel better. I'm coming here to become different. And it's having enough structural support before, during, and after, that the opening has somewhere real to land. And I just want to be equally honest about who is not ready, because I think this matters just as much as anything that I say here in this session today. You're not ready if you're still primarily hoping that medicine will help you understand someone else, your mom, your ex, your parent, your other parent, the co-parent. So before you have turned that same quality of attention toward yourself, you have to do that work first. You can't be worried about everyone else. You're not ready if you're hoping to bypass. Okay. If you want the experience to be so profound that you don't have to do the slower, harder work of rebuilding, medicine will not give you that. It will do quite the opposite. And you're not ready if your nervous system is in acute crisis without enough stability to hold intensity. Okay. This may this may be your season for preparation for the work that makes ceremony possible. And it's not a lesser path, it's a necessary one. And we can help support you on that path before ceremony. And you're not ready if you want someone else to change first. So if your healing is still contingent on an apology that you haven't received, or the child coming back, or the parent who hasn't acknowledged what they did, that's not healing. Okay. You're not ready if you're coming because someone told you that you should. Readiness has to come from your inside, it has to be yours. The container that we've built for the person who is genuinely ready for this level of work is not just an experience, it's responsibility. The person knows who they are. And if it's not you yet, no worries, no judgment. It's information, and the right season will come if medicine is meant for you. So if you're sitting with any of those, and if something in you recognizes itself right now, I just want to say something directly. I see you. I feel you. And if the medicine door isn't your door right now, that's okay. It's not because you're not worthy or any of those things. You need to have another path, or a pre work path before you do ceremony. So if that's you, my team will put a link in, schedule a call with somebody on my team. They can talk to you about what's available to you in helping you in this next step in your healing journey. Okay. So I want to transition out of medicine and readiness, and I want to talk about shifting your energy and still grounding you in the architecture of showing you the blueprint. So I want to tell you what I'm actually doing inside of the retreat, and I'm going to share with you the retreat that we have coming up next month. And if you're still here and you're feeling like this is something you're interested in, I'm going to share the opportunity to work with us in a retreat that's coming up. So let's talk about what 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 happens in this container. Everything inside the container is built on what I've lived, what I've witnessed across 20 plus years of working with this family dynamic, what I've discovered in my own body, in my own ceremonies, and about what is actually necessary and what it takes to break cycles at a level where it lives. So the methodology that we work inside the retreat is called Unhooked. And Unhook is my proprietary framework in the medicine space. And I developed it to take someone from the pattern that's been running your life consciously and most of the time unconsciously, and walk you all the way through it to an identity that is no longer organized around the wound. So, not managed and not coped with, unhooking from it. And here's what the process looks like at a high level. We have to first understand the hook. So before you can unhook from something, you have to see it clearly. It's not just intellectually in your body, in your relationships, in the specific ways that patterns actually have been showing up in your life, disguised as personality, as preference, as who you are. And most people have surface understandings of their patterns. So, in the first step, we're going to go beneath the surface of where the pattern actually is anchored. Then we're going to name the nervous system imprint. Okay. The hook is not a thought, it's a physiological reality, and it lives in your nervous system as a survival strategy that's been running since childhood. And it will keep running until you identify it at the level it began to work in your body, in your somatic system. Yeah, not just in your mind. Okay. Then we're going to honor what the pattern protected. This step, most healing modalities skip altogether, and it is the one that makes everything else possible. The pattern is not your enemy, it was your protector. And until you genuinely honor what it kept you safe from, a part of you will keep defending it, even as you try to release it. So we have to honor it before we can release it. And then we open the shadow. And this is where we do the work that most people resist, seeing your parts. And we're not accepting blame for what was done to you. Okay. We're seeing it clearly without self attack, the way the wound has shaped your behavior, your choices, and your relationships. And this is where the medicine ceremony lives inside the process, the unhook process. It's in the opening held inside a container that has been prepared to receive it. And then we overwrite the identity. Once the shadow is integrated, there is space. And into that space, we build something new, a conscious identity, one that is rooted in who you are becoming rather than what you survived. And this isn't positive thinking and affirmations. This is structural identity reconstruction built on the nervous system regulation and the shadow work that came before it. It must go in that order. And again, when we unhook from our narrative and we rewrite the story and we do it at a cellular level, it's a felt sense. So you move from what's going on in your head and what we started this conversation with, which is what a lot of people understand, from therapy. You can talk about this family dynamic till you're blue in the face. You probably know your identity that was assigned to you in your family, all of those things. However, the mind and the heart need to be reconnected. And then the integration, the keeping the cycle broken. This is what happens in the 90 days after you leave. The structure that holds the transformation in place while your nervous system learns a new baseline, while the insight survives contact with your actual life. Because transformation without integration is just an amazing or intense experience. And you deserve more than an intense experience. So that's the framework at a high level, the depth of each phase and what it looks like for you specifically in your body, in your history, in your relationships. This and the application of this is what happens during the retreat. So, I want to share with you what is held inside the container because one of the things I've learned about nervous system work is that friction is the enemy of transformation. So, when you're managing logistics, when making decisions about where to sleep and what to eat and what comes next, a part of your nervous system stays in management mode and it cannot fully drop into the work. So, we've built this retreat so that the only decision that you have to make once you arrive is to be present. Everything else is handled. So before you arrive, you'll receive your full preparation material and you will participate in preparation calls that begin orienting your nervous system toward what's coming. You do not arrive cold, you arrive ready. And during the retreat, which is March 27th through April 1st in Costa Rica, we will provide accommodations that are fully covered. Every meal is provided, and the container is held from the moment you land in San Jose to the moment you leave San Jose. So you do not manage a single logistic detail. Outside of the retreat, your only other obligation is to get yourself to San Jose, Costa Rica airport by 7 a.m. on the morning of the 27th so that we take a private plane to the retreat space. Okay. The only other thing is you pick your room. That's your only job. You pick the room when you register and you get your flight. Everything else is taken care of once you register. After you leave, you'll have 90 days of structured integration support because that is where the real work happens. This is where the transformation either takes root in your actual life or it dissolves under the first wave of pressure. The investment covers all of that, every piece. So the only thing we ask you to arrange is your flight in and out of San Jose, Costa Rica, and picking your room once you register. Everything from the moment you land, and the moment you board your flight home is held. And we're meeting in Costa Rica because the land itself is part of the container. My husband and I went there in October to feel the land, to see if it was the right place. And it was so sacred and so beautiful. The land is also medicine. There's something about being physically removed from your daily life, from the triggers, the routines, and the familiar pulls of the pattern that creates a quality of openness that is very difficult to access at home. And you're not on vacation, although it's a resort like property. You are in a place that will hold you while you do the hardest and most important work of your life. And I want to help you really anchor into what's possible on the other side of this decision. And I want you to feel two different futures before we end this evening. So I want you to close your eyes and I want you to think of this first future. So this one starts where you leave this session and nothing fundamentally changes. So you go back to your life, maybe with new information, maybe with a more understanding, a deeper understanding, and at the same level, in the same nervous system, inside the same identity. And now I want you to see yourself 12 months from now. What does your body feel like? What does your relationship with yourself feel like? Where is the cutoff from your parent, from your child, from your own life, from the version of yourself that you've been trying to reach? What has the cycle passed down in the year, even without you meaning to? Just notice. And now I want you to visualize the second future. 12 months from now, you're not the same person who's watching this right now. Your nervous system has a new baseline. You feel the trigger and you move through it. That is earned. That is a different place from managing. Your identity is no longer organized around the wound. You have a sense of who you are that does not require the other person to change or apologize or come back for you to be okay. You saw the shadow clearly with compassion because you've seen it. It no longer runs your life. And whatever the current status of your relationship with your child, your parent, your siblings, your family, you are prepared. You're not white knuckling or waiting. You're regulated, grounded, present, available for connection without collapse. Notice where you feel the peace and the joy in your body. And that is possible. So, coming back in here, the Breaking the Cycle retreat is built on everything that I've lived and everything that I've taught you just now, preparing you before you arrive because your nervous system needs to begin orienting towards safety before we go deep. We'll spend 6 days together from March 27th through April 1st in deep somatic, psychospiritual, communal, and plant medicine ceremony in which is just really one element of a compassionate and unconditionally lovingly held container. And it's not a shortcut, it's the threshold. And 90 days of structured integration after, because that's where transformation either takes root or dissolves. And you'll leave Costa Rica with your personal cycle breaking integration roadmap. It's not a one size fits all, it's a real, authentic roadmap built during the retreat that you will use in your integration for you. This container is selective. It is not for everyone. And I mean that. It's not a marketing strategy. It is a commitment to the people who are inside it. The quality of this container depends on the readiness of the people in it. And we have a few spots left, and we are almost at capacity. So we are in the final stages of applications. And when it's full, it's full. So if what I've shared with you has landed somewhere true in you, not just in your mind, but somewhere real in your body, then my team will put a link in the chat, and click the link, schedule a call, and talk to us. And I'm not going to try to convince you. Conviction that comes from outside doesn't produce transformation, decision does. I was 5 years old when my father disappeared. I was 18 when I tried to find my way back to him with no tools and no language and no idea what had happened between us. I'm a mother whose children were nearly taken from me. And I'm a professional who has been attacked by people that I trusted, dismissed by people who were supposed to be my peers and my friends. And for years, I've stayed in the trenches with you, solving the problem. And I've carried all of that. And beneath all of that, beneath the expertise and the service and the reputation I was building while the old wound quietly ran its program for 15 years of the last 20 years. And I've not been the same since I've been doing this deeper work. And this work wouldn't have been possible had I not stepped fully into this container. And again, it's not for everyone, and that is okay. It is for you if you're ready to be found and you feel it. So I'm going to just jump over to the chat if you have any questions. I'm happy to answer any questions about the retreat or about medicine. I'm just going to take a look. I think it's Luann. I'm sorry to hear about that. We have a lot of parents that have done medicine with us that have been 8 years and longer who've recovered their children after doing reunification work with us and deep ceremonial work. So the plant medicine helps you heal what is inside of you that's unconscious, the parts that created the narrative of unworthiness inside your unconscious mind, inside your nervous system, the trauma. Um, Grandparents are invited too. The nice thing about our container is this is a family wound, right? So whether you're a grandparent, a parent, or a child in this family dynamic, it's the same lineage wound that keeps getting passed down through the generations until one person, somebody decides to break the cycle. That's why it's called the Breaking the Cycle Retreat, because we are breaking cycles. We are not there to just live it over and over again. We're here to break it. Okay. No questions. All right. So my team put the link in the chat. If you are listening on Instagram live, I see live people on Instagram. Thank you for popping in. I think you can put the link in there too. Okay. So the link is in the chat. Feel free to click the link, schedule a call. We'd be happy to talk to you about the retreat. And if you want to speak to somebody on our team about our other healing modalities, that's fine as well. You have to book a call. So we'd love to talk to you. Thank you so much for listening and participating today. I haven't gone live in a while, so I was excited to come live with you today. Thanks for sticking around. And I'll end with my usual remember that you have to have peace in so that you can have peace out. And we look forward to seeing those of you who are a yes in Costa Rica. Bye for now, everyone.